next year for the Arthur Ashe recipient. I want to give it next year. I know I've got to go. I've got to go, and I've got one last thing. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul. And those three things are going to carry on forever. I thank you, and God bless you all.
You know, it's the only speech that we've all heard hundreds of times, but still to this day always makes you cry, always makes you feel, always makes you think.
When I first saw Jimmy Valvano stand up on that stage at the ESPY Award show and give his speech, it was miraculous. I saw it for the first time when I was being diagnosed with cancer, and in that process, his speech enlightened me, lifted me up, and just seeing his attitude towards his fight and towards the fight to help others, it got me through those first grueling days of chemotherapy. It got me pushing to the next step, and it showed me that I could help others do the same.
And now I would like you to join us, along with ESPN, to share in Jim's vision to defeat cancer. Look, for the next week, we're going to celebrate his life and celebrate the mission of the V Foundation for Cancer Research.
Just know that every dollar you contribute goes towards help funding essential research to the fight against cancer.
All right, we now send you off to your scheduled program as we kick off the Jimmy V Week for Cancer Research here on the ESPN family of networks.
We welcome you to Tallahassee for the ACC Big Ten Challenge presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, part of Jimmy V Week for Cancer Research on ESPN, as we continue our commitment to the V Foundation's and Jim Valvano's dream to defeat cancer. Tonight, 21st ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers taking on last year's ACC tournament champs, the Florida State Seminoles. Good evening, everybody. Glad you're with us. Joe Tessitore alongside Sean Farnham. 14th year of the ACC Big Ten Challenge, Sean. First 10 years dominated by the ACC, but now the pendulum has been swinging in recent years in the other direction.
Yeah, two best conferences in all of college basketball once again this season, but with three teams in the top five, the emergence of the Illini in this non-conference, boy, the Big Ten looks good.
Good weekend out of Minnesota. They're ranked for the first time since January 2011.
Yeah, you look at what they've been able to accomplish. They've got good size underneath, but they need to get production from the outside, and they got that down in the Bahamas. Andre Hollins lights out 41 points against his hometown team, the Memphis Tigers, and really the Golden Gophers haven't seen an explosion like this since 1971 as far as the offensive end goes. A perfect 5 for 5 from behind the arc, and when he gets going from the outside, it makes defense hold true, which means that it opens up the interior for Tubby Smith's squad.
Noel's got a guy who can score. Michael Snare, last year's MVP of the ACC tournament. What do you expect out of him tonight, Sean?
Great leadership. They've got so many young components on Florida State's roster. Michael Snare needs to be the stabilizer for them. The preseason Wooden Award candidate, takes a high quality shot, defends the ball extremely well, and is unselfish.
Let's go one-on-one with the fact that both schools have two gritty players who should be making an impact, both overcoming injuries from a year ago.
People say, why aren't they starting? Because the energy they both provide off the bench. Trevor Mbakwe coming off of a double-double against Stanford down in the Bahamas. Terrence Shannon, an energy guy, and Coach Hamilton told us earlier today his conditioning may not be exactly where it needs to be right now, but he's getting better each and every time out.
And two of the most likable and respected head coaches in college basketball we will see tonight. Leonard Hamilton, Tubby Smith. This here's the starting lineup for Minnesota. Rodney Williams, Sean, closing in on some career milestones.
Yeah, explosive athlete. Look out for him in the open floor. You have to have an awareness.
And for Florida State, starting lineup, that includes Ian Miller, who missed their last game because of a bone bruise in his right foot.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. He's got great scoring punch, averaging over 8 points per game.
Leonard Hamilton, you see him there on the right, a year ago, guided Florida State to become the first ACC team to defeat Duke and UNC twice in the same season since 1985. Tubby Smith, his 6th year with Minnesota, 4 wins away from number 500 in his career.
Two great coaches that continue to have success. It doesn't matter where they coach. Their teams always get better throughout the course of the year. And a little difference between these two squads. Florida State's got a lot of fresh young faces. Minnesota's got some veterans that have been around for a while.
I love the look on Leonard's face, Coach Hamilton's face, when we talked about 7 new guys, and it gives you that look like, here we go. Got to coach him up, got to educate him a little bit. He loves it, though.
Yeah, but he understands the process that it's going to take. When you play the kind of defense that Florida State and Coach Hamilton asks out of his team, it is going to take a couple of months, maybe even to get him into that order that he wants them to be at that end of the floor.
Many think Florida State better overall talent this year than last year. They just need the experience, and this is the kind of game where you can get that experience. The 14th annual ACC Big Ten Challenge, ready to tip off for another year. And Monte Brandon, the 6'7" freshman guard, will control things early here for the Noles. And there is Snare, rejected by Eliason. Miller. And the rebound goes to 6'11" sophomore Eliason's way.
Minnesota very good at altering shots inside the paint. If you're going to go in there, you got to go strong.
Austin Hollins to the other Hollins, Trey Hollins, who had that big game this weekend. And Williams, no good. And the long rebound will stay with Minnesota.
Defensive rotation from the help side, a step slow on this for the Seminoles on that drive. Williams should have finished.
Coleman, Austin Hollins, they go down low trying to get that ball to Eliason. Here's Hollins off the side rim, but what a putback by Rodney Williams. Can he get up?
Go ahead, hashtag it, SportsCenter Top 10.
How about that by Williams? Woo! Snare now, little runner through the lane, no good. Tried to baby hook, and that's going to go with Minnesota. Rodney Williams, a dunk contest kind of guy, they say. Indeed.
Well, he has his own little contest within the game. I mean, just a beautiful adjustment in the air. Speaking with him earlier today, I said, it's a shame you can't jump. He smiled.
What was that word I turned to you when we were at practice earlier? I said sudden. That's what he is, sudden, and what an impact he made there. Austin Hollins now drives baseline reverse, and that goes in. So 4-0 lead early here for Minnesota.
And those are little things defensively that Leonard Hamilton will not allow. To allow someone to drive from the wing across the baseline and have nobody cut that angle off. That's not Florida State defense.
And it back around to Ian Miller. Miller coming off that injury, and Williams goes up high to reject that.
You mentioned the shot blocking ability of Minnesota. They average better than 7 block shots per game. They've got 2 in the early stages here. Utilize the shot fake.
And test those shots. Here's Brandon now. And there's another one by Williams.
You have to understand your opponent. And Tess, I'll tell you, if you drive the middle of the lane, you get in there, don't be afraid to shot fake, elevate up a little bit, just trying to go through them. It's not going to work with the explosion and the athleticism that they have.
Snare from 18 feet, well off the mark. Shot clock hit zeros. Florida State 0 for 6 field goals to start the game. Ray Hollins for 3. And Minnesota off to a strong start early here in Tallahassee.
A lot of times you go to those island tournaments and you come back in the first game back on the mainland, you struggle a little bit, just like the Illini did against Gardner-Webb. Good start for the Golden Gophers.
And Snare gets the Noles on the board. Starts the night with a 3. Does Michael Snare, the leading returning scorer for the 2nd straight year. Ray Hollins now. Off the back rim. And a rebound fought for, and Coleman comes up with it. And he travels.
A good ball movement for Minnesota at the offensive end of the floor. Little dribble handoff. Snare late in his rotation out. Uncontested look. Hollins drains the 3. Of course, Snare then answered it back at his end of the floor.
Tara White. And he draws the foul.
I think free throw attempts in this game are going to be a very important statistic to watch for Florida State. Are they able to attack the middle and draw fouls? They've been attacking early, but they've been getting their shot blocked. You've got to be able to at least draw the contact and not be afraid of it. Go through the contact, go right into the shot blocker's chest.
Ray Hollins picked up the foul. White played well in the coaches versus Cancer Final Four up at the Barclays in Brooklyn. He's the leading scorer in those 2 games. That's 17 against BYU, went for 16 against St. Joe's. And it's 1 of 2.
Making free throws also allows you to set up your defense. Forces Minnesota to utilize seconds off the shot clock at this end of the floor and then get your defense set.
And the steal here as Brandon comes charging down and finishes with the left hand.
Defense leading to offense. White's length and ability to gap up, even against more athletic players, quicker, stronger, he's able to still get his hands on the ball and create offense.
So Florida State answers with a 6-0 run after Minnesota started this game with a 7-0 lead. Ray Hollins now drives past Snare, kicks it out. Coleman off the side rim, gets his own rebound and drives. And Eliason going up strong there. Gets the whistle.
Defense has been a staple for Florida State's program. Quick hands, open floor situation. You don't have to worry about the shot blockers there. 7-6, Minnesota up by 1.
In winter,
Elliot Eliason at the line. He found his way to the starting lineup in the middle of last season when Trevor Mbakwe was injured. He's been working his way back in fine order.
He's got to get his offensive game going a little bit, though. 0 for his 3 games down at the Atlantis. Only attempted 4 shots.
And meanwhile, Mbakwe, as this will go the other way, Mbakwe's been a guy who's been coming on, and many are saying, all right, can we see more of him early?
I think you continue to keep him on the bench. I mean, just such a difference maker. Ignites your team.
A little pressure here. Minnesota ends up with it, though. And Coleman at the other end. Strong finish by Joe Coleman.
The defense gets caught on the high side, and nobody's back deep. Coleman's athleticism good enough to get in the rim.
Miller. That was rejected as well. And a fight for the ball. Possession arrow will go Minnesota's way.
What you're going to see in that last possession, the press break worked great. As the ball gets inbounded, go ahead and roll it out. Freeze it right there. The defensive line is here. The problem is Coleman's right here. He's got an open lane to the hoop. He's just going to run right down the floor. Easy pass ahead. A strong finish.
Austin Hollins bringing it up. Trey Hollins and Austin Hollins. No relation. Eliason. He lost his footing there. Bojanovsky picking up the foul.
There's Austin Hollins, and he's a guy that Coach was talking about earlier today, along with Andre Hollins, that they feel like they're going to have to run a couple of sets for them, try to ignite them a little bit more, Austin in particular.
And the tap in by Williams won't go. Hollins got a piece of that pass, but it does end up with Okara White. Here's Wisnin. And the rebound by Austin Hollins. Pushes it ahead to Coleman. Williams, the take to the hole, and he was denied. Hollins gets his man up in the air. 19-footer just rims out. Here's Williams again with an offensive rebound. Rejected that time by Boris Bojanovsky, the 7'3" freshman.
A frustrating possession.
Other end now, it's Bojo. Boris Bojanovsky, the tallest player in Florida State history.
And for Minnesota, though, you get 3 offensive looks on putbacks, and you're not able to complete. That's what allowed the floor to get spaced out enough for Florida State to find the easy one in transition.
Spin move by Hollins, picks up his dribble. Now Coleman. Austin Hollins, and he's able to hit the baseline jumper.
A good job sneaking out. All 5 defensive players for Florida State had a foot in the paint on the dribble drive. They really do an excellent job clogging up the middle and forcing you to shoot from out over the top.
We said it earlier, 2 veterans, 2 guys that can make an impact in our one-on-one in the open. Mbakwe and Terrence Shannon coming into the game here. Minnesota up by 4.
The intensity of this game will pick up with their emergence on the floor. I think
Mbakwe is coming off a 9-point, 12-rebound game against Stanford. Blew out his knee a year ago tonight. Been working his way back.
Such great energy, such great passion, has accepted his role. Coach Smith was quick to point out he doesn't really have much of a choice, but he certainly has accepted it.
He said, hey, it's a coach's decision. You can complain all you want. I'll tell you when you're going into the game. And there you see the knee brace on that right leg. That was in the Old Spice Classic down in Orlando against Dayton, and he was granted a 6-year of eligibility. He was a preseason All-America candidate before last year, suffering that injury. And as a junior, he led the Big Ten in rebounds.
But one of the things I've noticed watching them play in the early season, Mbakwe feeds off the energy of Williams. So Williams already getting up in the rim. Usually bodes well for Mbakwe to come out and make his presence felt.
There is Mbakwe. Julian Welch also came in as Maverick Ahanmisi. There's Mbakwe at the rebound, fighting down low, and it'll stay with the Gophers.
Good strength underneath. Minnesota was looking to establish its high-low entry pass down low. But great defense by Shannon, who also just came off the bench, who we were talking about at the start of this game.
He prefers that role. He's been very open in discussing that. Now Mbakwe. Oceanics, a little turnaround from 13 feet, and Otto Oceanics from Latvia.
Good patience in the post. Feel where the body was. Initiate the contact and roll off.
Grew up in Europe, prepped in Illinois. There's Thomas now. Got to work it down low. Kyle Turpin can't connect. Offensive rebound, and he puts it in.
Both teams doing an excellent job getting on the offensive glass. And that's going to be pivotal in this game because of the solid half-court defense for both teams.
Bojanowski and now Kyle Turpin, yet another.
Well, this is the right call. And they're explaining it to Trevor right now, but it was clearly, no question, as soon as we saw it, you knew that there was going to be an assessed penalty, and flagrant one was the call.
Kyle Turpin, the son of Mel Turpin, played for Kentucky and was recruited by Leonard Hamilton when Hamilton was an assistant coach up in Lexington. Take you back to 1984, Sean.
Well, of course, Leonard Hamilton, you see, as an assistant coach on the staff, and Mel Turpin, his father, one of those key Kentucky players. The Twin Towers underneath.
Sam Bowie, Kenny Skywalker. Leonard Hamilton's 11th year now at Florida State. Led them to the ACC tournament title a year ago. And Thomas took steps. Aaron Thomas, freshman guard.
I have high hopes for Thomas out of Brewster Academy. Led them to the #1 ranking overall last year. He can score in a variety of ways. A tough kid. Kind of fits the mold of what you look for Leonard Hamilton's team. A tough kid that can get after you and defend.
4th turnover for Florida State. Ahanisi now driving. And he draws the foul. ESPN's coverage of the Duke ACC Big Ten Challenge presented by Dick's Sporting Goods.
That's going to be a great matchup. Duke, Ohio State. You mentioned Deshaun Thomas. Talk about scoring in 3 ways. He shoots better than 54% from the field, 94% from the free throw line, and 48% from behind the arc. He is a matchup nightmare.
Minnesota's lone loss on the year. Game against Duke down there on Thanksgiving Day in the Bahamas. And Thomas was trying to find Turpin. And now 5 turnovers here early for the Noles.
Both teams are going to play a lot of players. They're going to keep fresh bodies in, and part of that is not just for the fatigue factor, but it's also the mental aspect of the game.
Here's Welch. Now will go as a 2. His first basket of the night. 6-point lead for Minnesota. Turpin now down low. And they're calling for a little basket interference, but count it for Florida State.
And that looked like it was still on the rim as there was contact made.
Ahanisi once again going strong to the left side. Let's go back and let's see, is it still in that cylinder, Sean?
Basket interference. You watch Turpin goes in and should have finished the first one. That was still on the iron. From our vantage point, it looked like it was still on the iron. I'll stick with that.
Maverick Ahanisi at the line. Junior from California. Shooting 88% on the year.
He works so consistently in the offseason trying to develop his shot from behind the arc, but he can provide a little bit of a punch for them offensively. He's aggressive. He looks to attack the basket. The concern you have with him, though, is he tends to turn the ball over. And we've seen some turnover problems already in this game.
Yeah, Florida State has 5 turnovers already. And 5 field goals made. Not exactly the ratio they're looking for. 5 of 15 shooting. Michael Snare. Monte Brandon. Good-looking big freshman guard. 6'7". Now Snare. And Snare draws the foul.
So smart by Michael Snare. So many great scorers across the land. Understand, easy way to get points is at the free throw line. And over the last couple of games, last 3 to be exact, he's averaging 17 and 7. Those numbers are continuing to improve.
Rodney Williams, his first.
The MVP of the Coaches vs. Cancer Classic. He's led Florida State in scoring the last 2 seasons.
And he pulls them to within 4.
It's one of the things you talk about with all the newcomers for Florida State. One thing all coaches look for is you want your best player to be your hardest worker. And Michael Snare is the best player on this team, and he's also the hardest worker. It makes it easy for those freshmen and those transfers to come on in and understand the way it has to be done here at Florida State.
Yeah, they had that season opening loss to South Alabama. He was the guy that called for the players-only practices. Let's get everybody together, show good leadership early on. He sensed that some of these younger guys really didn't know what the system was quite yet.
You can turn a loss into a positive, especially one in early November, if your guys respond the right way. And Florida State so far has responded the right way.
Ray Hollins, Big Ten Player of the Week. Tries to get it down low. And Mbakwe, as the shot clock was counting down.
They're going to put 1 second back on the shot clock. But a good job by Florida State defensively on that possession. Swarming, cutting off the angle, not allowing the easy entry pass down low.
And Coleman tried to give it a chance. Shot clock violation, so Florida State with the ball, trailing by 4. Here's Brandon now. And the turnaround won't go for Brandon as he had posted up the 6'1" Dre Hollins. On the other end, it's Coleman. Strong and athletic is Joe Coleman.
Yeah, his upper body strength allows him at 6'4" to really turn corners and go to the rim without hesitation. One way to score against Florida State's defense is not to allow it to set up.
Brandon now for 3. Bojanowski came over the top there.
And it's tough to come over Big Mo Walker. But Coleman in the open floor. This is what I'm talking about. Defense scrambling a little bit, things unsettled. Go ahead, aggressively attack the paint if you've got a lane, and Coleman able to do it.
2 fouls for Bojanowski. Coleman, a third-generation Gopher. His brother Dan played as a senior in Tubby Smith's first year. His uncle Ben played back in the 70s.
Good barometer usually of how Minnesota's going to play is how Coleman does. If he gets to 10, they win. 10-3 on his career, 3-0 so far this season when he gets into double figures.
Hollins. A little scoop with that right hand, but it wouldn't fall for him. Instead, Turpin gets the rebound. Miller skips it over. And now driving his Snare, and the follow-up won't go for Turpin. Here comes Hollins now. And he gets it to go.
How many times do we see that? Where a team has a chance for an easy look, they miss it. The floor, everybody's flattened out. Rebound tips out to a guard, and they can just push and create tempo.
That was Mo Walker getting in front of Michael Snare. And how about Hollins here in Tallahassee? And Tubby Smith, he's liked what the front court has had to offer this season.
We've already seen them tonight have success. 4 block shots on the season, averaging over 7. They do a great job getting to the free throw line. They usually hold their own on the boards. Get a plus in that category. All of a sudden, it means possessions for your team.
Ian Miller front rims it. Rebound, Dre Hollins. And it took about 3 steps and then drew the foul right there as he was pushed. First on Turpin. Minnesota coming off that strong weekend at the Battle for Atlantis tournament. Now ranked for the first time since early 2011. And how about the way they won that game against Stanford?
Unbelievable. Dre Hollins doesn't get to the free throw line that time, but he did with 0.4 seconds. Fouled on a half-court heave. Made all 3, and they win by 3.
Miller now in transition. First basket of the night for Ian Miller. Has been walking around campus with a boot on his right foot. Takes it off to practice and to play. Missed the last game with a bad bone bruise in that right foot.
I think he could be the X factor for this team as he picks up the foul. It'll be a one-on-one shooting situation, but I think Ian Miller could be the X factor for Florida State this season. He is so good at creating off the bounce, and his defensive ability and understanding where guys are supposed to be. I think as he improves, Florida State improves, especially at the guard position. They need him healthy.
Minnesota in the bonus with Hollins at the line. And, you know, they experimented earlier this year, Sean, with Miller and being a point guard. They started the season opener, put him at point guard, but a guy who's always had a great ability to create. And now we've seen Monte Brandon and even the freshman Devin Booker at time for Coach Leonard Hamilton.
Versatility. A lot of these newcomers, as they continue to identify what role they're being asked to do and fulfill, and then being able to actually fulfill the role, are two different things. And Florida State is one of those teams that will get better as the season goes on. By the time you get to conference play, you can be assured their defense is going to be tight and their half-court execution right where it needs to be.
And Hollins makes it 25-17. And here is Devin Booker, the freshman guard from Anchorage, Alaska. Number 1 is checked in. Nearly there at half court. Terrence Shannon. There's Snare on the drive, and he's able to get it with the right hand to drop in. 7 points here in the first half for Michael Snare.
That's veteran leadership by Snare to read the defense, see the lane, and attack.
Bounce pass down low. Eliason. Weak side rebound. And Eliason able to tap it in.
Eliason does so many of the things that don't show up in a box score. Those tip backs, those rebounds, the block shots, they do. But so important for Minnesota to have his activity.
Terrence Shannon tries to take him, but he took steps along the way.
Florida State has not done a great job in their half-court sets executing. But Snare does an excellent job working before he gets the ball. Now, as he gets it, freeze it right there. The lane, he sees it, turns the corner right away, able to finish. Poise and understanding how to be successful in the half-court set.
Now 6 turnovers for the Noles. Dre Hollins for 3, and he nails it.
It looked pure as soon as it left his hand.
Remember, had that amazing 41-point performance this weekend against Memphis. He was 5 for 5.
Open on the outside. Look at this space that he has to deal with. He could have checked the wind and then released and knocked it down, but good job by offensive execution. Try to suck the defense on one side of the floor, counterattack it right away.
And this will be on the other Hollins, Austin Hollins, his first. You know what he did against Memphis, but how about the other 6 games?
Well, the shooting percentages are a concern. 21% from behind the arc. You want to see consistency. The 41 points is great, but I think every Minnesota fan would prefer him to get that number at about 35% from the outside, night in and night out, and know you can be successful. Right now, 2 of 3 from behind the arc in this one, so off to a good start. And that Memphis game was a personal game for him, playing against some of his best friends.
Here's Shannon, the fadeaway, and he came up short as he took that hard jump step and then went back. Now a nice inside feed again. It's Rodney Williams.
A little ball fake out top. The defense freezes. And Rodney Williams has the best 4 points in the first half that I've seen this year. At least the strongest.
Had that put back early and then brought that with a bit of violence. And here is Booker. An offensive rebound, and unable to connect was Carl White, but he draws the foul. Let's go back to Rodney Williams, talked about as one of the most athletic leapers in the country. Here's yet another example.
Here he is on your screen. He's going to post up right in the middle of the paint. The defense is going to freeze on that ball fake. Look at the space underneath. Once again, wide open, help side defense from behind. Snare was really the one, too, that needed to cheat over and get in front of him. Unable to do it. A great finish. Boy, he is explosive, and he gets up in a hurry. His quick twitch muscles are as good as anyone's in the country.
9-2 run by Minnesota with Okaro White at the line. Goes 1 of 2 there.
In baseball games, they keep track of strikeouts. At Minnesota this year, they should keep track of dunks.
And what you and I were doing some math pregame. What, about 27% of his career points have come on dunks?
Pretty remarkable.
Florida State's ball here. 4:06 in the half. Career numbers. You see 122 dunks coming into tonight.
Yeah.
Put 2 more on there.
Yeah, we can cross that off and go to 124 now.
Upwards of 27% of his total career points. Here is Booker now matched up with Dre Hollins. Ian Miller loses control, and Coleman with the whistle there. We'll take a break. 12-point lead for the Gophers. Looking forward to seeing #1 Indiana as we're here in Tallahassee. 4th time that Minnesota and Florida State have met in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Leonard Hamilton's squad down by 12 here. Moments ago, Dre Hopkins picked up his second and sends Ian Miller to the line.
A great job in this first half by Minnesota defensively. Florida State shooting under 30% from the field right now. You're going to win a lot of games if you can hold teams to under 30% shooting as a unit.
That's the front end of the one-on-one. Maryland Northwestern coming up later tonight. Back-to-back nights, and Hollins went for the steal there, and it's going to go Florida State's way as Devin Booker came in strong defensively.
Good job by the freshman. On-ball defense, getting his hands active, and then diving on the floor.
6 turnover for Minnesota. As you can imagine with Booker, the first Florida State player to come from Alaska. Comes from Anchorage.
Same high school as former Duke star Trajan Langdon.
And we just exhausted our Alaska trivia in college basketball.
Well, we can throw out a Carlos Boozer reference if you want. We can get it in there.
He was banged up before the season began, and he missed 3 weeks of practice. When you talk to Leonard Hamilton, he says, listen, such valuable time for a freshman to get acclimated, to learn the system.
In that South Alabama game, he literally had 1 practice and then the game. Yeah. So he is on the job training right now for this talented young freshman.
Had a couple back-to-back 5-assist games up in New York when they had success there. Eliason swings it around into the hands of Ahmisi. Ahmisi puts it on the floor, kicks to Hollins, gets his man up in the air, and the 3 will go. So extend the lead to 15 for Minnesota. 9 points now.
Too often perimeter players do not utilize the shot fake effectively. A great job by Hollins to elevate the defense, watch the flyby, create the space, clean look at the rim.
10-1 run for the Gophers. I'll stay with Florida State.
Some nimble footwork by the official on the near side to get out of the way of that one. You look at Florida State, how do they get better offensively right now? I think, to me, what stands out is that Terrence Shannon came in this game, and his impact hasn't been felt yet. And his energy is infectious, and his team desperately needs a pickup right now with under 2.5 left to go.
How about that? What did you say about Terrence Shannon?
They needed to pick me up, and he picked it right up off the iron and put it back in. An explosive leaper, set the screen out top. Nobody put a body on him.
He's the most explosive of leapers.
Let's see if it translates over to the defensive end of the floor to get another stop.
Williams to the drive here and can't get that to go. And Brandon fighting down low there. And they're going to say he touched the baseline.
Offensively, Shannon out top, comes up, nobody puts a body on him, and he throws it back in, and that was awfully close to getting up the rim.
Sure was.
That's the second time in the first half that Florida State has benefited from the ball that was still touching the iron.
Collins looking for Williams there in the entry. Now he decides to bring it around the arc. Ahanisi matched up with Monte Brandon, and now he takes, splits, and loses control and a turnover. As Terrence Shannon comes up with it.
Sloppy play.
Sure is.
Great job splitting the double team for Minnesota, but then the quick turnover, and then Florida State in an open court situation throws a straight line pass with a defensive player closing in on it. You've got to have better awareness to know what the angle is and how you can be successful out on the floor.
If Florida State can trim this lead before the half. Over a minute to play. Michael Snare, leader of this team. Now here's Miller on the drive, kicks it out to White, and White's able to connect for three.
I always think great offense, you're able to at least break down the defense, whether it's through an entry pass into the paint or off a dribble penetration. A lot of passing side to side, and then finally Miller gets a piece of the paint, and White was wide open on the opposite side.
Cut it to 10. Florida State run. Final half minute here. Julian Welch. And now Williams back out to Welch. And Welch answers just like that. Julian Welch, the senior guard.
Well, we saw it at one end off the dribble penetration. I'm talking about break down the defense, get the ball down low and kick it out.
Five seconds. Brandon, good pass baseline, and White can't get it to go.
Good ball movement, good man movement, way to be ready to have your feet underneath you and knock down the shots.
See what Austin Hollins was able to do. The Hollins boys, Dre and Austin Hollins, not related, for Minnesota, combined for 17 points. Austin had 9, Andre had 8. Dre was 2 for 3 on three-pointers. And trying to go up and in to Michael Snare. And the rebound being fought for.
Talk about Florida State will keep it. The first half for me, what also stands true is the balance in the scoring for Minnesota. You had 8 different Gophers put themselves in the scoring category.
Off the inbound, Miller. And he back rims it. And a long rebound being fought for, and possession arrow will go the other way. Michael Snare, preseason All-ACC with 7 points in the first half.
Only 4 assists in the first half for Florida State. Now, part of that is because they didn't make a lot of field goals. 9 made field goals in the first half. They've got to do a much better job breaking down Minnesota's defense. And I think it starts by getting the ball down low and playing out.
He shot 32%.
Austin Hollins dropped to the floor. I did not see the contact that was away from the ball. Hollins will shoot both, and then it will be at the point of interruption.
88% shooter from the line is Hollins.
And if you're Florida State, these are 2 shots you wish you didn't have to watch. I mean, you're just giving points to Minnesota, and you've got to try to scratch and claw your way back into this game, and nothing's been easy for you yet at the offensive end.
Collins has 11 now, and the lead is back up to 15. Leonard Hamilton looking on, finding his team in a big hole here to start this second half. Ray Hollins working up against Michael Snare. And here is Austin Hollins giving way. And Dre Hollins misses long as Eliason tracks it down.
See again, Eliason got the tie-up at this end defensively. That time tracks down the long rebound. The little things like that can help you win a game.
Dre side rim on that three-point attempt, and it'll go with the Noles.
I'm impressed with the activity of Eliason throughout the course of tonight's game.
6'11" sophomore center from Nebraska for the Gophers. See if Michael Snare can spark something. Here's Brandon. Brandon now drives through the lane, left hand, and it goes.
I love the patience in that half-court set by Florida State. Great on-ball defense by Minnesota for a majority of the possession, making you play up over the top. Finally find a lane with 5 seconds left to go on the shot clock and attack it.
Hollins kicks out Williams for 3, and he nails it.
Yeah, he is not a one-dimensional player.
2 big dunks, and now the three-pointer. 7 points for Rodney Williams, their senior star.
Look at the Big Ten Conference teams playing well in the early stages of the season.
Good pass down low to Kyle Turpin.
And good pin and seal on the high side, but the Illini winning the Maui Invitational.
Hollins can't get it to go. What a follow-up by Dre Hollins. Right place at the right time.
And Minnesota with their play. Tess, I'm telling you right now, this is a team that's only going to get better as the season progresses.
Already got a nice boost coming out of their holiday tournament. Ranked 21st now are the Gophers. Going to go the other way here. A reminder that the SEC Big East Challenge tips on ESPN2 Thursday. At 7, we got John Calipari's Wildcats taking on the Fighting Irish. Then at 9, Buzz Williams, Golden Eagles against Billy Donovan and the number 7 Gators. SEC Big East Challenge Thursday on ESPN2. ESPN home court of college hoops.
I'm really looking forward to Marquette, Florida. The way Marquette defends, gets after the ball, puts pressure on you. The Gators are going to have their hands full.
Speaking of having his hands full, Dre Hollins just got a whole lot of Monte Brandon.
Good job just showing through. Ball up in the air, loose ball situation. The freshman for the Seminoles making too much contact. Easy call.
Brandon's second of the night.
3 fouls already here in the second half. Minnesota's going to get to the line early if they keep the pressure.
Be in that bonus soon enough. 16-point lead. Hollins kicks it out. And Off the front rim that time, Austin Hollins, as Florida State pushes it the other way. Here's Miller, kick out, Brandon, side rim rebound, Coleman. And now Coleman up ahead to Hollins. And a loose ball fought for, and Austin Hollins down on the ground. And he'll get a timeout. 45-29. Gophers up early in the second half. That mustache.
I think all of us know somebody that at least has been affected by cancer. And the Jimmy V Foundation is on top of it, from cutting-edge technology and research to try to help save the lives of so many.
Baseline, and that was Joe Coleman. 6 points on the night for Coleman. Physical guard, likes to get to the basket. And Shannon came up short that time, tried to make the aggressive room on the reverse, but couldn't get it.
Minnesota is just out executing Florida State right now.
18-point margin. Here's Coleman again, aggressively, but a little too much. Put that shoulder right in there. But still the lead stretched out to 18 here in 500 rebounds, dish out 200 assists, and has many, many moments like that.
Unselfishness we've seen from Minnesota. And how about the fact Trevor Mbakwe has played 5 minutes in this contest and has yet to score. And they are handling Florida State right now.
Yeah, and he's a physical difference maker when he gets going, but don't even need him tonight. There's Terrence Shannon, gives way to Snare. Snare needs to get going in this second half. Dishes down low, and Shannon can't get it to drop in. Now White, and it won't go for White, but he draws the foul. Trevor Mbakwe, exactly 1 year ago tonight. The injury came against Dayton, title game of the Old Spice Classic in Orlando. It's tough to even watch. Tore his ACL in his right knee. Was granted a 6-year of eligibility.
Very quiet night for Mbakwe. The biggest play he's been involved in was the flagrant one that he received for ripping the ball through him and making contact.
Throwing that elbow. A couple years ago, you see how productive he was. As Florida State is able to come up with a rebound off the missed free throw. Miller from 14 feet, and that won't go. Brought down by Eliason.
Eliason closed all the way out to the three-point line, double-teamed the ball, and then rotated back to get the ball and the rebound on the opposite
Good
end.
effort play by Eliason. Here's Hollins trying to draw the foul. And instead it's off the knee of Eliason and into the hands of Michael Snare. Booker was trying to find Shannon that time. Instead, Hollins comes up with it. Austin Hollins.
Minnesota slows down the tempo. 17-point lead.
Here's Austin. And he gets the whistle. ESPN's coverage of the NBA continues Friday. Andre Iguodala leads the Nuggets against Kobe and the Lakers. Denver, LA, Friday at 10:30 on ESPN, presented by State Farm.
Lakers still struggling, not in the rhythm yet. It's going to take a while. The effects of not having your point guard, and Steve Nash, when he gets back, I think will make a world of difference for the Los Angeles Lakers and Mike D'Antoni's system.
Collins misses the first. Goes to the line with 11 points, 17-point margin for Minnesota.
And Mbakwe just checked back into the game for Minnesota. First action we've seen from him in a long time. Hollins, a great defensive player for Minnesota.
And they consider him Their best defender, and tonight we're seeing some offense out of him. He is 12.
Twice this year in this young season, over 5 steals in a game. He had 6 versus Memphis. You see him pick up Snare, force him to give up the ball early.
Hollins matched up with Booker. There's the 7'3" Bojanovsky, and Snare's going to drive it, and he draws the foul.
A poor show that time on the on-ball screen. Mbakwe stood behind, and as the screen came up over the top, Snare read Mbakwe and where he was and knew that there was a lane to the rim. Gets himself to the free throw line. And you mentioned, Tess, in the first half that he is going to the free throw line with a much greater frequency this year. And when you're struggling offensively like Florida State has tonight, this is where Snare can make a difference. Get yourself to the free throw line, get yourself in a rhythm, and start to see if it sparks your offense.
4 more free throws per game for Michael Snare this year, but you need to cash in once you get those opportunities. Leonard Hamilton last year led Florida State to the ACC title. Graduated 6 players. There's Bernard James. Great story about serving in the Air Force and now off to the NBA, and a young, talented group coming in for Hamilton.
They ruled it a lane violation on the first one. I didn't hear the whistle or the announcement over the PA system.
No, nor did I. So that's the 3 attempts that you saw.
Yeah. Mesmerized by your words, Tess. I was lost there for a moment.
If only my wife felt the same way, Sean. Julian Welch who checked in. Coleman now from 18 feet, and he gets the bounce. So 8 points for Coleman.
We saw Coleman attack aggressively in the first half, now showing the versatility of his game, sets the screen, comes off the baseline ready to shoot.
Miller, Bojanovsky, and he just pushed that one. And now Shannon trying to fight for the effort down low, and he'll go to the line. Terrence Shannon, the 6'8" junior. Guy who prefers to come off the bench. Had that conversation with Coach Hamilton, who recently said, you know, Shannon was afraid that I was going to start him. Came to me and said, hey, I prefer being the spark plug. Likes to watch the early minutes, see what the game has, and see what they need from him and others.
We've seen this time and time again in college basketball. I remember back in my playing days at UCLA, Jason Terry, clearly talented enough to start, or for the Arizona Wildcats at the time, but felt that he was more effective coming off the bench.
I think that's a certain mentality, isn't it, Sean?
It is, and I think that every player has a different role on a team, and Shannon has the potential to be one of the best 6 men in all of college basketball, and especially in the ACC, if he can continue his offensive output that we've seen over the course of the early stages of the season, not necessarily tonight.
See the struggles with Florida State. 30% from the floor. Trying to get something going here. But Minnesota's been maintaining. And now Julian Welch. 7 points for Welch.
A difference in quality of shot.
Snare drives, reverse, kicks out. Shannon now drives, right-hander, and that won't go. Rebound, Eliason.
Last 2 possessions for Minnesota, we have seen wide open mid-range jump shots. Everything at the offensive end for Florida State is contested looks, the defense rotating, shooting over the top of players' hands.
2 on Snare here. Ray Hollins losing control for a moment and sets things back up, matched up with Snare. Both trying to work for 2 Duke at 9:30 Wednesday on ESPN, also live on Watch ESPN. Glad you're with us here as Tubby Smith's team has been doing their job well, especially defensively. Florida State shooting just 20% here in the second half on 2 of 10 shooting. Joe Tessitore, Sean Farnham with you. 52-34 Minnesota. Eliason trying to beat the clock there. And now here comes Brandon. Aaron Thomas has come into the game for Florida State. Terry Wisnants, and they could use that. He's their three-point shooting threat.
Just the third three-pointer made for Florida State. It starts down here, though. You can't allow Minnesota to shoot 50% in the second half from the field and think that you're going to come back in this game.
Feed down low, and Mbakwe.
You score a three-pointer at one end, and you're going to give up one at this end. Just great execution. You see the on-ball screen here. He's going to shape up and roll as the dribble penetration comes up over the top. And the foul, a defensive rotation, too slow.
And the rebound by Joe Coleman. Gets the putback. And this is a 56-37 game.
They give it the three-pointer here. You get 4 points at the opposite end. It's a bad trade.
Brandon trying to find the big Bojanovsky, cutting. Instead it goes the other way, and Hollins is able to finish.
3 layups in 2 trips down the floor for Minnesota.
And that balanced scoring continues. Hollins has 12 now. Here's Thomas for 3. And he can't get it to drop, but it'll stay with the Noles as Mbakwe was trying to chase it down.
Coleman goes to the bench, and remember the stat I brought up in the first half. When he scores in double figures,
yes,
Minnesota wins. They're 3-0 on the season. He's at 10 points right now. They're 10-3 in his career when they scored in double figures.
Bojo, and he will go to the line. As Eliason wrapped him up. Boris Bojanovsky comes from the Slovak Republic. As a teenager, he left there and attended a basketball academy in the Canary Islands. And that basketball academy has sent over 30 players to play Division I basketball stateside.
As he fills out over the course of his career, I think with his agility, his lateral quickness, he's going to be a player for Florida State.
He's spreading 240 pounds on that 7'3" frame, Sean.
That's the concern, and that's the problem, especially when you think about the ACC and you think of some of the bodies he's going to have to bang with. They miss Bernard James. There's no question about it. He was a force a year ago for Florida State.
And Mbakwe goes down low to Eliason. That is tapped away. Here's Welch now, and Welch well off the mark that time. And then Bojo outlets to Brandon. Brandon, nice look underneath to Shannon. Terrence Shannon now with 8 points.
Great composure and poise to gather and then power through for Shannon.
Austin Hollins. Welch. Swings it around. Here's Dre Hollins. And Eliason comes up with it.
10 rebounds now, so active. Tracking those loose ball rebounds down. Those are usually ones you see the guards get.
Welch picks up his dribble. Hollins spreads, feeds, and Mbakwe couldn't finish. He lost control of the ball on the way up, trying to bring it home with the right hand.
And Mbakwe trying to maybe do a little bit too much. Instead of going up strong side, he brought it back to the weak side, and that's what allowed the ball to come loose and create this foul in the open floor. And Mbakwe with the foul. It's been a frustrating night. If there's one Minnesota player you'd say is frustrated by the overall night, it'd be Mbakwe.
Opening night, opening game of the 14th annual ACC Big Ten Challenge, and good start for the Big Ten so far, as has been the case the past 3 years. There's a three-pointer by Wisnant. Gary Wisnant has been trying to provide a spark, his second three of the night, and Florida State closes to 15. Welch, Eliason, and there's the whistle. And that's on Akara White, his second.
One of the things Tubby Smith spoke with us about earlier today was handling a true road game. And, you know, Minnesota coming off that tournament in the Bahamas, they had some turnover issues down there. And he was quick to point out to you and I that you can't afford in a road game to turn the ball over 18 times and be real loose with it, especially when you're playing against Leonard Hamilton's team that's so stingy at the defensive end.
You know, you asked him, what have you found out about your team? And he said, you know, we found out that we're finding ways to win games.
Yes.
That there's a certain maturity and veteran presence to this team that has an understanding of simply how to do that.
And it's showing up tonight. And they have been very crisp with the ball. They have limited their turnovers against a very good defense. And they've made it look easy at times, executing their half-court sets.
And aggressively getting after it that time was Hollins. 7:50 to play, 59-43 Minnesota.
Various ways, and for me, just putting myself in the donor bank, it's the right thing to do, and it's not evasive. It's not what you think about a big long process. It's going to keep you out of action for a really long time, and I'm excited about this opportunity and hope that it comes through.
Great work, Sean. Wisnant at the line for the Noles, as Minnesota has gotten such good offensive scoring tonight from their guards. Trey Hollins and Austin Hollins, and even Coleman getting into the mix. 34 of their 59 points coming from the Gopher guards. Florida State trying to chisel away here a bit. Bring a little pressure defensively. 14-point margin as it stands. Now Williams, and it's going the other way.
Legal strength.
Yep.
Dipped the shoulder into him, and part of that, though, goes on Rodney Williams. You know, it's not just the screener's fault. You've got to be able, as a ball handler, to bring your man down below the level of the screen and create that contact.
4 on Eliason.
And no need right now for Minnesota to push him. You know, if you get in the half-court set like that and things just don't feel right, just pull it back out,
Absolutely.
Find a guard, and set it back up.
Maintain that cushion. Aaron Thomas in the game for Florida State. Here's Wisnant, who's provided some scoring from long range in the second half for the Noles. Gives way to Brandon. Drive, spin, right hand, back rim, and then back in. Monte Brandon. Lead down to 12. Brandon has 6.
And it's been a while since we've heard a buzz in this building from this crowd.
Florida State on a 10-1 run.
Good job by Thomas, the freshman, harassing Hollins up top. This pressure has brought a little bit more life. There's a little more bounce right now in the Seminoles' legs.
Wisnant out on Welch. Now Mbakwe sets the screen high. Here's Coleman, always willing to go to the hole. Little fade away, and the putback won't go, and the rebound by Bojo.
They can cut it to 10.
Here's Thomas now with the baseline drive, and he draws the foul.
Hey, partner, a completely different feel in the last 2 minutes from Florida State. And you wonder, where has this been for a majority of the night? You dig yourself an 18-point hole, and now you're trying to get yourself out of it. But you need to play with this sense of urgency, this aggressiveness from the start. And I think that's part of maybe that learning curve that Coach Hamilton's been talking about with so many newcomers.
Freshman guard. And Aaron Thomas hits the first. Minnesota had pushed their lead up to 21. And Leonard Hamilton hoping they can chip away here with 6:30 to go. And Thomas, the highly sought after recruit, hits both. Down to a 10-point game. No pressure here by the Noles. Mbakwe picked up his dribble. And now he gets it to Hollins. And it'll stay with Minnesota. This place was ready to explode for a moment.
It was great defense, though, and the intensity level I've been bringing up time and time again in the last 30 seconds. Watch where they are on the catch. No space allowed whatsoever. I mean, they are right on top of Minnesota.
They were smothering from the moment of that inbounds. They're going to go long here, and it was batted away, and it's a turnover. Monte Brandon, and sloppy play by Florida State.
And not a heady play at all. You have just secured possession, a chance to bring it down to 8, maybe 7 with a 3, and you turn it back over.
Those are the possessions you so desperately need in a spot like this. And Mbakwe now strong, and he draws the foul. So what a swing that was, Sean. Could have brought it down to 7 or 8, but instead, Mbakwe will be going to the line.
Dribble penetration makes the back line of your defense pinch in and has to step up. White, no other option than to foul there. Otherwise, it's a dunk.
His third. And Mbakwe hits the first. Trevor Mbakwe, slow start tonight at his 24th career double-double this weekend. A year ago tonight, blew out his knee down at the Old Spice Classic. Working hard to get back, a 6 year of eligibility.
Golden opportunity missed by Florida State.
Back to 12-point lead for the Gophers. See their second half shooting. They started slow, then they went on that run. See if they can keep it up. White gets his man up in the air and gets the whistle. So he earned it. Carl White, junior forward from Clearwater, Florida. Some say their most NBA-ready player.
Well, you see his length, and we touched on in the first half how his long wingspan allows him to close the gap defensively against quicker players.
19 NBA scouts here tonight. One of the prospects they're looking at, Carl White. And he gets it back to 10.
Florida State was not matched up properly in their press there.
Coleman now, 18-footer, and he hits it.
Yeah, that possession didn't start well, and it didn't start well 94 feet away. On the inbound pass, they weren't there on the catch like we've been seeing.
There's yet another turnover by the Noles. And here's Dre Hollins. Nice pass to Coleman and a good finish for the Gophers. 14 points for Joe Coleman.
Balance, execution, and unselfishness. 3 words I'd use to describe Minnesota's offense right now.
Florida State gave him a good shot. Went on a run. Minnesota
State has held their opponents to about 38% field goal percentage. You're going to win a lot of games when you can do that. Tonight, we haven't seen that. Tonight, we've seen Minnesota cut them up and work offensively.
And Florida State and Duke, the only ACC teams with 10 conference wins in each of the last 4 seasons. 14-point lead for a good-looking Minnesota team. Hollins. And a whistle this time. And Coleman. The balanced scoring tonight for Minnesota. You got the headlines last week of Dre Hollins dropping in 41, but this is more of what you get and what they want to be, Sean.
This is the identity and the makeup of the program. This is not a star-driven team. You know, there's many teams around the country. We talk about 1 or 2 players and say, okay, these are the guys. They're going to lead them all the way. But with Minnesota, it's the collective group, the sum of the parts.
White from the line now. And Mbakwe not on that list of balanced scoring tonight. He's coming off that good game against Stanford, but tonight was off to a slow start. And White able to hit both. So a 12-point lead under 5 minutes to play.
Coleman's so aggressive on the catch.
Sure
When
is,
he gets that dribble handoff, he's looking to attack every time.
He's worked well going to the rim throughout the night. Hollins looked his way for a moment. Now it's Austin Hollins with the ball. And how about that? Joe Coleman, what a night for him. 16 points for Coleman.
This great movement away from the ball. How can you set yourself up to score? On dribble penetration, watch your defensive player's head. And when it turns, look to find a lane and attack.
Last 6 points he has scored for the Gophers. Monte Brandon. Rebound Shannon. Kicks it back out. Snare. And a whistle came. Take a look back at how Coleman was able to finish. A 16-point night for him. Gophers up by 14 here in Tallahassee. You can see, put one in the books for the ACC. As Virginia Tech defeated Iowa. And we'll see if Minnesota can hold on here and get one for the Big Ten as Tubby Smith looks on. He's had a good night of balanced scoring from the Gophers tonight. Looking forward to seeing what happens with UNC and Indiana coming up on ESPN as we look to bring this one home in Tallahassee. Dre Hollins bounce pass. Williams again. That is 3 times tonight that it gets you to rise off your seat. Are you kidding me with Rodney Williams' ability to go up, Sean?
I thought the first one was top 10 worthy. This one might be better. The catch, the explosion through the contact. A dynamic athlete. Has a nose for the rim and can change the game and ignite his teammates in a hurry. I mean, this game is well in hand for Minnesota, but just what it does, the infectiousness of that play.
When he makes that decision, he's gone, and it's already over, and you're just watching it. And on the other end, a 3 that time, as Michael Snare connects. But Minnesota, throughout the night, has always had the answer. Coleman now breaking a bit of pressure that time. And good job that time by Aaron Thomas. And he finishes on the other end. So a nice effort that time from the freshman guard from Cincinnati. ESPN college basketball. Well, you know, he's gone on to have a great career on the Diamonds. And Christian Ponder has such success down here with the Knowles and now leading the way for the Vikings.
Just think he could have been Joey Football.
He could have been Joey Football. I think come next Saturday, I'm going to be in Times Square with a lot of talk of one Johnny Football.
Boy, what a sensational season for that young man.
Just has that it factor, does the A&M quarterback. Coming up on 2 minutes. Hollins ran into Mbakwe there, but they're going to get the whistle as you see Snare quick to come in, and that'll get called on Monte Brandon, the freshman guard.
That looked a little bit like...
They ran right into Mbakwe.
That looked a little bit like Mark Sanchez this past weekend with the Jets.
It sure did.
He gets bailed out. No fumble on the play.
Sanchez felt like a Thanksgiving Day turkey in that moment. All of a sudden, he's going the other way with the Pats. So Hollins continues a solid night for him. 13 points now for Austin Hollins. Couple points above his season average.
He's got to play with a sense of urgency now. Got to go quick.
That was denied by Walker, as that was floated and a little too easy for Walker to get rid of. Shannon now finishes with the left as he took it to the hole. And we'll get a timeout called by Leonard Hamilton. Of course, on New Year's night, we got Maryland and Northwestern coming up as we continue on with this 14th annual ACC Big Ten Challenge. 6 games tonight, 6 games tomorrow. You got North Carolina and Indiana tonight. You got Ohio State and Duke tomorrow. You look at the landscape of the Big Ten, and this is a conference that you're up there in the range. Indiana's number 1 right now, Michigan number 3, Ohio State number 4. But this Minnesota team breaking into the rankings now at 21. You see the balanced scoring and what they're capable of. They're not going to be an easy out, even with those big boys in the Big Ten.
Well, and I like the schedule this year for Tubby Smith. I mean, they've got a couple more roadblocks potentially ahead for themselves. They've got a road game at USC, and although USC is not playing great basketball right now, Kevin O'Neill's team can get after you and they can defend. And so challenging yourself away from home will only help you once you get into conference play starting on December 31st against Michigan State.
Williams hits the first preseason poll for the Big Ten. Obviously Indiana, everybody's number 1. And those top 3 have delivered so far. And Michigan State obviously has been tested. They're number 13 now.
Well, the 2 biggest move ups that I would make on that poll would be Minnesota and Illinois. Illinois preseason predicted by the media at number 9. Clearly better than that.
7-0 now are the Illini, number 22 in the country. Had a little bit of a scare with Gardner Webb there the other night. Northwestern and Maryland is tipped off. That's over on ESPN News as we are finishing things up here, coming up on the final minute in Tallahassee. And that's backcourt as Austin Hollins couldn't control it.
Well, Northwestern, this is their first real big test tonight against Maryland, and that game coming up next.
Give me something to look for there, Sean, when I head back to the hotel and put it on.
Reggie Hearn, he can shoot the ball from the outside. 57% from behind the arc. They've got balanced scoring themselves with 4 players averaging double figures. Maryland's size, though, will be an issue. They rebound the ball excessively well.
Wiseman, and he finishes. As Florida State has this to 9 and a timeout. Their last timeout with 55 seconds remaining. Minnesota. They had a strong weekend in that Battle for Atlantis tournament. They're now ranked for the first time since January of 2011. Made their way to the NIT championship game a year ago. Lost to Stanford there, but used it as a springboard into this season. A more mature team, veteran squad, balanced scoring we've seen throughout the night. Florida State pressures and then fouls. Monte Brandon. Michigan got a win against NC State. So as it stands right now, Big Ten with a win, ACC with a win in this 14th annual challenge.
And that's the 5th straight loss in the challenge for North Carolina State.
And here we have Minnesota and Florida State meeting for the 4th time in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And Florida State came in with a 2-1 edge in those challenge games. 8th meeting overall between these two. Hadn't met since November of 07 prior to tonight. As Thomas's 3 is off the mark. And the rebound goes to Shannon, and Shannon with his own putback.
Playing a little volleyball action on the backboard with Shannon. Very impressed with the veteran leadership of Minnesota in this game. You come off these island tournaments, whether it's in the Bahamas or whether it's in Maui, and you don't know how your team is going to respond as it starts working its way back to campus. And for Tubby Smith to take a true road game, obviously part of this ACC Big Ten Challenge, and for his team to come out and perform and execute the way they did tonight, he's got to feel very pleased with where they're at.
Played a Duke team that's now up to number 2 in the country. Then they beat a ranked Memphis team with that outstanding showing from Dre Hollins when he dropped in 41 points against so many of his former buddies from back home. He's from Memphis. And then had that finish against Stanford with the foul with 0.4 seconds left and winning that 66-63. But no bounce, no regress here as they come to Tallahassee. As Shannon again trying to clean things up on the glass. And Minnesota gets the rebound and the whistle, leaving 25 seconds and an 11-point lead.
Right. You talked about the strength of the Big Ten, and well documented, obviously, those 3 teams inside the top 5, Michigan State, Illinois. It's going to be awfully difficult for teams to find wins inside the barn.
Reminder that up next will be Maryland and Northwestern as the ACC Big Ten Challenge continues. Going to be capped by UNC at Indiana tonight. Hairston injured this weekend. What are you looking for in that matchup?
Well, besides Reggie Bullock, you need to have another player step up from the outside. I think Leslie McDonald is the one guy that's going to have to try to get something going from the outside.
Not a good looking effort from Mbakwe.
And Tubby Smith will take him out of the game after that air ball.
Mbakwe, who led the Big Ten in rebounds as a junior and then had a catastrophic injury a year ago tonight, blew out his knee. The Old Spice Classic, 6 year of eligibility and working his way back into form. Snare front rims it.
And this is a process for Coach Hamilton, and this loss, just like the South Alabama loss, will not define the season for the Seminoles.
So the Big Ten now up 2-1 in this challenge. Good night for Tubby Ball, Tubby Smith and Leonard Hamilton. Our final score.